subheading is classifying them. To classify just means putting them in groups, knowing which one is which. The first thing I suppose we should understand is what in the world is a quadrilateral. And at least what is a quadrilateral? Figure it out from the first four letters. Quad is, that would be something different. Quad is how many? Quarts. How many quarts in a gallon? Yeah. A quadrilateral is a four-sided shape. Now, most people think when they think four-sided shape, they think square, but that is a quadrilateral. It is not the only quadrilateral. But we need the, for math, we always go by the exact definition there. And the first one we're going to talk about is a trapezium. Trapezium. Trapeze, I make sure I spelled that one right too. Trapezium. And a trapezium is a quadrilateral that has no parallel sides. No parallel sides. And it is a goofy looking shape. It really doesn't have any rhyme or reason. It just kind of goes up, side, down. No parallel side, no parallel side, no parallel side, no parallel side. Just kind of an awkward looking little shape there. Has nothing parallel on it. Okay. The next one is a trapezoid. A trapezoid has exactly and just one set of parallel sides. One set of parallel sides. Which means this. I always start with the parallel side so you don't have to worry about it. One side, a second side, one side, a second side, a third side. These two sides are parallel, so this is a trapezoid. Sometimes they look like this. Sometimes they look like this. Those are trapezoids. Now on to some of the more familiar ones that we know. How about the old standard parallelogram? If we've talked about a shape that has no parallel sides and one set of parallel sides, obviously the next one is two sets of parallel sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4. A parallelogram means that all the sides are parallel to a different side there. We could have it drawn like this, and like this, goes like this, and like this. Could be really long, this, long, like that. This side is parallel to that side. Two sets of parallel sides. We need a little bit more room here, so if I can shrink this down a little. Next we have, how about a rhombus? Anybody know what a rhombus is, the exact definition? What's that? Taylor, what's a rhombus?
It has
No, you can only get, in a quadrilateral, the most parallel sides you get is two sets. A rhombus is a parallelogram that has equal sides. In other words, the sides are all equal lengths. So it would look like this, like this, and like this. I like to call it a squished square. If you took a square and stepped on it, put a little pressure on it, pushed it on an angle, that is a rhombus. All sides have to be equal, and it has to be a parallelogram. Which brings us to, I'm still running out of room. Let's do this. We'll just push this all up higher. You don't need to know that other stuff. A couple that we're familiar with, a rectangle. What do you suppose the exact definition of a rectangle is? Kendall?
It's a square.
It is not a square. It could be a square, but it's not all rectangles are squares. Alex?
It has 4 sections.
No, we can only get 2 sets. We already established that. It's a parallelogram with 4 right angles. A parallelogram with 4 right angles. Every angle on it is a right angle. And then the last one we have is a square. What's the definition of a square? What makes something a square? Ava?
It has 2 sets of parallel lines and they're all equal. But they're not same.
It's a parallelogram with 4 right angles and 4 equal sides. A square has to be equal sides, and it has to have 4 right angles, and it has to be a parallelogram. So the gist is this, children. Every square is a rectangle because it fits the definition of a rectangle. A rectangle just needs to have 4 right angles in it to be a parallelogram. All squares fit that category. All squares are rectangles, but the reverse isn't true. You can draw a rectangle that's not a square. You can't draw a square that's not a rectangle. Okay? Same thing as this. All rhombuses are parallelograms, right? By definition, because they have to have 2 sets of parallel lines. But not all parallelograms are rhombus. And you just have to sit down there and think about that for a second, too. Can you draw a rectangle that is not a square? Well, since a square has to have 4 equal sides, this rectangle here is not a square, so that's true. You can draw a rectangle that's not a square. Can you draw a square that's not a rectangle? Well, think of all the squares you can draw. What's the definition of a rectangle? It just has to have 4 right angles. Can you draw a square that doesn't have 4 right angles? No. So you need to know these exact definitions because you have to look at them and be able to compare them when they ask you questions about them. For example, they give one, are all parallelograms rectangles? Would every parallelogram that you could draw be a rectangle? If I drew a parallelogram that looked like this, is it a rectangle? No, so the answer is no to that.